For about 3 quarters on Friday, the San Antonio Spurs were in a competitive game with the New Orleans Pelicans, but then the fourth quarter came and the Spurs were dealt their 10th loss in a row. How's it going, everyone? This is Paul Garcia with Project Spurs. Let's go through a quick recap of this game on Friday night. So first, let's go to pregame. What was going on? What was the situation for both teams? So multiple players and the Spurs' head coach were out for this game. So Coach Pop, it was announced before the game that he underwent a minor medical procedure, and he was going to miss Friday's game against New Orleans and also the Spurs' game on Sunday against Phoenix, and then he'll be back next week for their following game. So he's expected to miss 2 games, Coach Pop. So he was out, and then of course on the injured list were Jakob Poeltl, Jeremy Sohan, Josh Richardson, and Doug McDermott. Those are some key players that were out, part of the Spurs' core rotation. And then the Pelicans were also missing 2 starters. They were missing Brandon Ingram and Herb Jones. Yeah. So anyway, Herb Jones. The Pelicans were favored. We do want to note so by 7. So of course, they were the favorite even despite all these injuries to these teams. All right, so as you can see here, I mean, the graph pretty much shows this is a very close game for San Antonio New Orleans for 3 quarters, and then the Pelicans just took over in the fourth. Let's go through a quick recap here. All right, so in the first initial 12 minutes of this game, in the first quarter, the Spurs actually fell behind by 10 really quickly, but then they actually came back and had a 1-point lead. So they battled back. In the second quarter, they were able to tie the game, and then midway through, the Pelicans had a 6-point lead. Devin Vassell got really hot in the second quarter. He ends up with a 10-point quarter there, so scores 10 points there in the second. And then the Spurs ended the quarter on a 9-0 run, and they go into halftime leading by 3. So San Antonio's ahead by 3. Third quarter comes. It's a pretty close quarter for those first 6 minutes. Both teams are tied at the midway point of the third quarter. But then Jose Alvarado really makes a difference off the bench for New Orleans, and then Zion Williamson continues to attack the Spurs' defense inside and getting to the free throw line. And so the Pelicans open up a 10-point lead again by the end of the third. And then the fourth quarter comes, and it becomes the Trey Murphy show, where he just starts, drilling threes, and then Zion continues to score, and then Jose Alvarado continues to make a difference for New Orleans. And then the game basically, gets out of hand from there, and the Pelicans go up by 23. They end up winning by 18. So another loss for San Antonio. They're 10th in a row, and we are going to go to this one a little bit more deep dive into this game, just because it wasn't, like I said, for the whole night it wasn't a blowout, just not until that final quarter is when the game got out of hand for San Antonio. All right, so who are your leading scorers for both teams? You had Devin Vassell there for the Spurs with 25 points, especially 15 points from the 3-point line. You had Keldon Johnson with 15 points, but he did take a lot of shot attempts again. His 3-point shots just really, he's just really struggling right now. I mean, he had 2 air balls, and then he had a shot where it hit like the top of the rim. I mean, not the top of the rim, the top of the backboard. It was just, there's just something going on with the shot right now. And so yes, he was second leading scorer, but he had a tough night on the efficiency end. Charles Bassey had a good scoring night with 11 points off the bench, 10 points in the paint. And then you had for starting lineup, you had Bates-Diop with 10 points there for San Antonio. The Spurs did win the free throw line. That was the only area of the floor that they won by 4 points. On the other side for the Pelicans, Zion again continued to dominate against San Antonio on the inside. He had 18 points in the paint, and then if he wasn't scoring at the paint, he was getting to the free throw line where he scores 12 points. Wow, look at that. Just notice he matched the Spurs in free throws. 12 points for Zion from the free throw line and 12 for the Spurs. Jonas Valanciunas always seems like he has a great game against the Spurs. 12 points in the paint attacking their defense, and then had a few other shots going. So he ends up with 21 points. Trey Murphy was kind of quiet for most of the night, but then the fourth quarter came and he really got hot from 3. And so he ends up with 15 points from the 3-point line. So 15 of his 17 from there. Najee Marshall was big for the Pelicans off the bench with 15 points. And then also Jose Alvarado. I mean, he's just a player that when he's on the floor, you just watch him nonstop. Like there was in the fourth quarter when he had that steal where he kind of like hit again behind one of the Spurs guards when they were inbounding the ball. I actually had to rewind and go back and watch it just because I wanted to see exactly how he did it. He's just so sneaky in how he actually prepares for those steals against the opponent. And as you can see there, the Pelicans won the paint by 6 points. They won the 3-point line barely by 3, and then they won. It was really the free throws. That's really the biggest advantage for New Orleans was their free throw difference. Of course, when you have Zion, you're going to have that advantage as a team. Both teams, let's see, looking at their shot selection, Pelicans shot well in the paint. Of course, again, they had Zion, and then they had Jonas scoring well inside the paint, so 63% of their shots they made. Both teams did struggle from the 3-point line, we do want to note. So it's like an even battle there because they were both having a tough night. Both teams struggled from mid-range, and then again, that big difference there was the scoring from the free throw line, where the Pelicans outscored the Spurs there. by 13 points is a big difference there. As far as fast break scoring, New Orleans won that battle as well, but barely, just by 4 points, and then points off turnovers were very close as well, 11-8 for New Orleans. All right, so who are 3 of your standout players for the Spurs? You had Trey Jones here with 34 minutes. He scores 9 points, puts up 9 shots to score those 9 points and 2 free throw attempts. He also has 5 rebounds, 9 assists, 0 turnovers, 2 steals, and one foul. Devin Vassell was also a key player for San Antonio. 35 minutes. He scores 25 points on 23 shots, gets the free throw line twice, or gets 2 free throw attempts, adds 4 rebounds, 3 assists, one foul, 1 turnover, and 1 block. That was key there for Devin, block. And then, like I said, Charles Bassey had a good night off the bench with 11 points in 21 minutes, on just 5 shots. So an efficient night for him shooting the ball. 2 free throw attempts, 9 rebounds, 4 fouls, 1 steal, and 2 blocks for Bassey. And there was one where he really swatted somebody's mess, like against the backboard. So again, those are your 3 standout players for the Spurs. On offense, the good turnovers. This is actually, I know that they're on a 10-game losing streak, but there's actually a sign that the Spurs are finally getting figuring it out with the turnovers. That was a big issue for them most of the season, and so they only ended up with 12 turnovers tonight, and they've had low turnover numbers now in 3 straight games. So again, I know the wins aren't happening, but at least they're starting to turn that part of their offense around in terms of taking care of the ball, because that had been an issue for them most of the season. Then the not so good areas for them, again, scoring the basketball efficiently, that was an issue for them. 28% shooting from 3. The 3-point shot continues that they continue to struggle from there. 50% accuracy in the paint. Again, the Pelicans had Jonas there, down there guarding the paint, as a presence there, and so the Spurs only shoot 50% in the paint. And then also in a game where both teams are not making threes, at an efficient rate, this becomes, who's going to score the 2s or get to the free throw line. And so that's where, in a way, you kind of want San Antonio to have a good night from the mid-range, but they didn't. They only made 27% of their mid-range shots, and then they only scored 99 points as a team, so that's also below their season average. On defense, the good, the Pelicans, like I said, they had a tough night shooting the ball as well, just 29% from 3. So that's a good thing, on the Spurs' end for their defense. And then the Pelicans also had a tough night from the mid-range, just 14% shooting there. The not so good things for the Spurs' defense is the Pelicans made 25 free throws. That's more than the Spurs usually allow. And of course, give credit there to Zion Williamson. The Pelicans got out on the break for 22 fast break points, and that's higher than what the Spurs usually average. The Spurs were not able to force New Orleans into a lot of turnovers. The Pelicans only ended up with 9 turnovers, and so that's why the Spurs only ended up with 4 steals there. And when they did turn the Pelicans over, they didn't really score a lot of points off those turnovers, just 8 points off of those turnovers. All right, so how are the Spurs now through 23 games? They are now 6-17 overall, still 14th out west, still with the 4th worst record in the NBA if you are looking at the lottery odds. They're now 3-9 at home in the AT&T Center. They are 2-15 against the West. They are 0-15 when trailing by double digits, and they are on that 10-game losing streak like we mentioned earlier. Up next to finish out this week, they get the number 1 team out west. The Phoenix Suns come to town in San Antonio, who have a 15-6 record as of Friday evening that I am recording this video. So we'll continue to see when the Spurs will end this 10-game losing streak. So for Project Spurs, I am Paul Garcia. Have a great evening.